Just into our information center, some new documents from the Knoxville Tourism and Sports Corporation. We reported on Friday KTSC has refused 10 News access to documents we requested during the past 2 weeks.
Tonight, a KTSC representative just delivered some documents to our newsroom. This comes nearly a month after we first reported KTSC spent 60% of its budget on employee salaries in 2010. The biggest chunk of that was a $405,000 paycheck to CEO Gloria Ray.
10 News reporter Hillary Lake broke that story. She joins us from the Information Center with the very latest. Hillary?
Well, that's right, Robin and John. We've been asking for some of these documents for 2 weeks. They were delivered within the last 10 minutes. We haven't had a chance to look at them closely yet, but the representative says they include payroll records, board minutes, and a breakdown of Ray's bonus.
Less than 24 hours ago, KTSC delivered hundreds of pages of documents to our newsroom. We've been asking that nonprofit for that paperwork during the past 2 weeks. It shows President and CEO Gloria Ray stands to earn more than $600,000 during the last year of her contract. That amount includes thousands in bonuses above and beyond what 10 News has previously reported she already earns.
Tonight, Knox County Mayor Tim Burchett and Knoxville Mayor Madeline Rogero are calling for Ray to step down in what has become a compensation controversy. We are going to hear from the mayors coming up in just a moment.
But first, we want to go to 10 News reporter Hillary Lake, who broke this story a month ago. And Hillary, you have more on what led KTSC's board to attempt damage control today.
That's right, Robin and John. We found out yesterday board chair David Duncan resigned his position. Vice chair Susan Brown has stepped in as interim chair. And today at a press conference, a lawyer for KTSC said there are parts of Ray's contract that might not be legally enforceable. That's important because the year and a half left on the contract is worth more than $1 million to Gloria Ray. Thousands of pages of documents piece together exactly how Knoxville Tourism and Sports Corporation CEO Gloria Ray has earned annual paychecks worth more than $400,000, including more than $100,000 in bonuses. Last month, we asked Ray if she thought her paycheck is fair.
Certainly hope that the numbers that we have been able to produce will in fact reflect that.
$400,000 isn't all Ray is set to earn. Her contract says she gets more than $86,000 for working through June of this year, plus an additional $166,000 for completing the last year of her contract in 2013. Edward Phillips, KTSC's attorney, called parts of Ray's contract into question on Thursday, saying they might not have been properly approved.
In light of these disagreements about some of the key aspects of Ms. Ray's compensation, there is a potential for a legal dispute.
KTSC came under fire a month ago after Ray came forward and said the organization has millions saved up to buy the Women's Basketball Hall of Fame. So 10 News took a look at its expenses because it is substantially funded by taxpayer money. We discovered it spent 60% of its budget on salaries, including Ray's, in the 2010 fiscal year. That sparked concern about Ray's paycheck among many local officials. Now KTSC is on the hot seat, and so is interim board chair Susan Brown.
KTSC is very committed to sharing all information and having full disclosure, as well as helping everyone understand the tremendous benefit we provide to this community.
The documents KTSC provided to us show former board chair William Stokely offered Ray a contract in 2007 that was similar to her previous deal. Ray never signed it. 6 months later, David Duncan had the top spot and was apparently willing to up the ante. Ray accepted the new offer, which included more vacation time and much larger incentives.
I'm not at liberty to tell you what my legal advice is.
A year later, Duncan made the deal better still with an addendum that gave Ray hundreds of thousands in retention bonuses. But there may be a question about whether that addendum will hold up. We've looked through the board's minutes and can't find compensation committee approval for any of it. If that committee didn't sign off, that goes against KTSC's bylaws. Brown says the board's goal is to do the right thing.
The focus needs to be KTSC. It doesn't need to be a single individual, because it's that entire team working in partnership with the city and the county and other organizations and other venues. They're doing tremendous work.
After hours of heated discussion tonight, we know that Knoxville Tourism and Sports Corporation President and CEO Gloria Ray will be out in 2 weeks. The nonprofit's board held an emergency meeting this afternoon responding to the controversy it's been dealing with for a month now. We'll have more on today's developments in just a moment. First, though, let's start with a quick look at how we got here. On January 6th, we reported Gloria Ray had been collecting more than $400,000 per year for running the nonprofit. The organization was spending 60% of its budget on salaries. Ray defended both the agency and her salary before County Commission on January 23rd. 10 News continued to investigate the story, including revelations that Ray may not have properly reported some conflicts of interest. Over the weekend, Board Chairman David Duncan resigned from the Executive Committee. And on Wednesday, Ktsc released a huge stack of documents showing Ray was set to receive hundreds of thousands of dollars in additional bonuses. Thursday, the mayors of both Knoxville and Knox County called on Ray to resign. The board held an emergency meeting this afternoon. And 10 News reporter Hillary Lake broke this story a month ago. She was at today's board meeting and joins us now from our information center with more on what happened. Hillary.
Robin, the emergency meeting lasted for 3 hours this afternoon. In the end, the executive committee resigned, and CEO Gloria Ray is on her way out.
I am willing to retire if KTSC's attorneys and my attorneys can agree upon the terms for me to do so.
Amidst controversy over her salary and huge bonuses, Gloria Ray offered to retire as president and CEO of the Knoxville Tourism and Sports Corporation. She founded the nonprofit a decade ago. In a board meeting at KTSC's offices on Friday, Ray told the crowd she does not deserve to be fired.
And I did not have any issue of money or promise of money that was not signed by the chairman of the board of this organization.
That was after the board's new attorney, Ward Phillips, said he determined the board did not properly approve parts of her contract extension in 2008.
There are at least 2 significant agreements between the KTSC and Ms. Ray that were not approved or known by either the executive committee or the board of directors.
The first, a reconciliation payment worth $46,000. The second, a $50,000 signing bonus Ray collected nearly 2 months before it was mentioned to the executive committee.
You have the authority to ratify the agreements, or you could reject the agreements. Indicate that you don't believe they were authorized, and then the next question becomes, what do you do about the $96,000 that's been paid?
The board voted to ask Ray to pay back the $96,000 in question. Then members took up her future with the organization.
The employment agreements were abided by, they were voted on, and they were approved by the board. And in those, the severance or the 3 months without cause is stated.
So we don't have an option to force her to retire now. If we accept anything other than terminating employment for cause or without cause, then we are in a situation where we're postponing.
In the end, the board voted to accept Ray's retirement effective in 2 weeks if they can come to a settlement agreement. That was the final vote for interim chair Susan Brown, Francis Hall, Bill Morrow, and Jason Crippen, the now former executive committee.
It sounds like the 4 current members have reached the same conclusion.
They resigned because they believe KTSC needs a fresh start after the compensation controversy that led to a leadership shakeup. Those board resignations were effective at the conclusion of this afternoon's meeting.
The leadership at the top of this organization is changing, but the mission is not. Let's remind you of that mission now. The KTSC has been in existence for close to a decade. They've had one leader in that time, Gloria Ray. It operates on about $3.4 million in motel hotel taxes every year that it collects. KTSC does event planning and promotion on everything from Special Olympics to Boomsday Day on down to weddings. Now back here live outside of this organization that is a nonprofit, we turn to 10 News reporter Hillary Lake, who's done extensive reporting on this leading up to this watershed day for this institution. Hillary?
That's right, John. And there were actually three main points to come out of the hour-long meeting this afternoon. The first being Gloria Ray is out. Her retirement is effective today. She owes KTSC nothing, and they owe her nothing. Also, the board is looking at some leadership changes and restructuring the way that they govern themselves. And the board also approved going into contract negotiations with Knox County, even though that contract does not expire until 2016.
An external Knox County audit of the Knox County Tourism and Sports Corporation points the finger at its former president, Gloria Ray, for taking advantage of a system that was prone to manipulation. The preliminary draft concludes she was overpaid for years and that the board did not legally approve parts of her contract.
10 News reporter Hillary Lake broke this story, and she was at this morning's audit committee meeting and joins us from our information center with the findings. Hillary?
Well, Robin and John, the audit, which covered 3 years, confirms what we've previously reported about Ray's contract and pay, that KTSC's board of directors never reviewed or approved them. An audit of the Knoxville Tourism and Sports Corporation is on paper 2 months after county officials requested a hard look at the organization's spending.
But they really had to jump into this with both feet and I'm happy with what they gave us.
County Commissioner Ed Schau sits on the audit committee. They listened Tuesday morning as Larry Elmore, an auditor with the firm Pugh & Company, presented the findings.
Again, just verifies what we heard in the winter, that there was a lot of overpayments up there.
Auditors reviewed KTSC's documents from the fiscal years 2009 through 2011. Among the results, there is no indication the board of directors reviewed or appointed bonuses for executives. Former President Gloria Ray was always paid bonuses before year's end and before goals were met. Ray's contract says she was supposed to get that money after the year's end and with board approval. Elmore called the calculation of Ray's bonuses, quote, unusual, and labeled her contract a, quote, moving target that was easily manipulated. Records also show Ray used her company credit card to make more than $2,000 in personal purchases, which she reimbursed to KTSC. She made additional purchases totaling more than $1,400 on the same card. Those were not properly documented. KTSC board chairman Bo Connor was at the meeting. He says the audit's findings are not surprising.
In my opinion, there was a manipulation of funds directed to that particular executive.
Knox County Mayor Tim Burchett shares Connor's thoughts about the results.
I think that the things that we suspected were in there. The person in charge was being paid a ridiculous amount of money, and the compensation schedule was out of control, and the board didn't know what needed to happen.
And now change will likely happen at KTSC. The 30-page report recommends the organization revamp its operating policies. Suggestions include reducing the size of the 23-member board, restructuring the president's compensation, and developing a whistleblower policy.
All of the things that were stated by the auditor, we've thought through, and we're trying to work with both mayors in order to do these things.
But overall, I've been pleased with the movement that they've made. I think they need to continue in that posture, though, because public trust is something that takes a long time to gain.
With the audit in the books, KTSC will keep doing what it's been doing since the board forced Ray into retirement back in February, working to promote Knoxville despite an uncertain future.